Senator Elizabeth Warren taking a chance in her 2020 presidential campaign, shunning conventional wisdom when it comes to advertising, fundraising, and polling. That's according to new reporting by Politico. And if her town hall in New Hampshire yesterday was any indication, it's working. The crowd overflowed outside the venue. Our next guest, who was at the event, says her performance with the crowds keeps getting better, too. Joining the table, one of our favorites, MSNBC correspondent Garrett Haake. Garrett, you were there yesterday. You were tweeting about it. We were talking about Biden, so we didn't get to it. But talk about what you saw.
Well, let me talk about the money first, because I think it is really important. Warren basically set aside the traditional fundraising platform. She's not doing the, hors d'oeuvres circuit behind closed doors. And in the first quarter, she got smoked. She only raised $6 million. She has a ton of overhead. She has a very large staff. She's trying to build a big presidential campaign. And a lot of people were sort of holding their breaths, waiting for the number that came out yesterday. The 19.1 would have been impressive if she had done it the old-fashioned way, and she didn't. She did it this new way, so that was big in and of itself.
Explain what that means. So no bundlers.
This is the sort of the standard no PACs, no corporate donors that all these candidates have agreed to do. But she's also not doing any traditional finance events.
Wow.
So we've seen, like, for example, Biden does these, but he has a pool reporter in the room.
Print pool.
Mayor Pete does a lot of these events. Beto has started to do some. He usually live streams them. All the candidates are trying to open up what has traditionally been a very closed process. She's foregoing it entirely.
Do any.
Saying, if you want to send me money, send me a check. Send me money through Act Blue. There's no event. You can't, you can't go to some law office.
Buy an audience.
You cannot buy an audience with her. You got to show up and earn it. And so now that we've seen this has worked, this is proof of concept for her. And as we've talked about a lot before, so much of this race is strength begetting strength. I think a lot of those big bundlers and donors who want to write big checks will start sending her checks now anyway, because now this is proof that what she's doing has at least gotten off the ground a little bit. As for the performative aspect of this, I've covered her a lot at these big cattle call events where you have multiple candidates in a room. She usually comes on last because it's usually alphabetical, and she always really wakes up the room. And I've seen it with a variety of different crowds, whether it's union trade builders or activists in different groups. This is one of the first of her own events that I have seen, and she's just really sharp. She knows her policy. She has very good comedic timing. The jokes are terribly corny, sort of John McCain style corny New Hampshire jokes. But the timing is good. I mean, it's sort of an underrated skill in an era of digital everything for campaigning. But she's just good at the performative aspect on the trail. People who came at 4:30 in the afternoon on a Monday got something for showing up. So
her crowds appear to be huge. What's going on in the room? Are there more women than at some of their? I mean, what's the crowd? What's the? You made it funny. You made a comment that I was chuckling about. It was hard to figure out who a Swalwell voter was. Who's a Warren voter?
It's a lot of women. It's a younger crowd than are the Bernie Sanders and, well, that's not true. It's a younger crowd than are the Biden events that I've covered. It is roughly demographically similar to Bernie crowd. There's a lot of college students, younger people who are interested in her. There's definitely a lot of Bernie pull away. I met a lot of folks who were with Bernie in 2016, and maybe they're still shopping Warren, but they're there to check it out. Iowa and New Hampshire are both not exactly racially diverse. I would not say that the crowds are racially diverse. I would love to see her in South Carolina and see if she can pull a more diverse crowd there. The polling has suggested that she can, at least compared to, Mayor Pete, Beto, sort of the other folks kind of hanging on to the bottom of the top tier. But I haven't seen that in person yet.
What do you think?
So the most impressive thing I've seen in this report, 384,000 individual donors.
Amazing.
That is amazing.
People don't understand. They can give, and they can give, and they can give till they're maxed out.
Yes. And, at $28 a pop. And then that's like 90,000 more than the next closest person, which is Mayor Pete, who actually did really well. So for her to be starting in that particular place, and we're just in the second quarter, is a good sign. I also, look, Warren has been doing this the way that we want candidates to do it. Ideas first, policy first, and letting that grow. I looked at her last weekend. She was at the NEA, right? So National Education, talked to a lot of teachers. Then she goes down to Essence. That has a sort of dual impact on her campaign. One, you were standing in front of a bunch of black women who are important for any Democratic nominee, but also you spoke to teachers. That's women, that's African Americans, that's working class people throughout the entire country. So she's hitting the right places and sort of peaking at the right time. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when people see Elizabeth Warren as a front runner who has to be attacked, how she responds to that. But right now she's run probably the best campaign of any of the Democrats so far.
Donna, you agree?
Well, look, I think I do, and I think that she's already demonstrated that she can take a punch and then keep on going. I think that's really important for a candidate. And one of the things that I noticed about her is that an important part of the Democratic base are black women, and every single one of her policies, she links something that connects to black women. And you can see that play out at Essence Fest. You saw it at the National Action Network, She the People. And she really connects with those women. I think that's going to pay off hugely in South Carolina. And remember, she doesn't have to win all of the black vote, but she's got to get her vote up enough so that she keeps the energy, if she gets the nomination, going into November.
The other thing that seems to be go underreported a little bit, not by you, but by a lot of people, is that the attacks on Trump are sharp, but they're not personal. Meanwhile, she was the victim of some of the nastiest and most personal and inappropriate, frankly, attacks. I remember he was standing with Native American code talkers, and he talked about, oh, you know, there's Elizabeth Warren, we call her Pocahontas. She has taken a punch from no less than Donald Trump, and she's still standing and fighting. And I think she's been one of the clearest voices on impeachment.
Because she's a master of policy, and she can twirl that wand in a way that he can't, and be more cutting in a way, because the people who she's trying to speak to are actually, there's a lot of potential there for crossover if you put her in that progressive category that we put Bernie in to in 2016. There was a lot of crossover, for instance, when it came to trade policy, when it came to trying to revive, you know, the Midwest and industrial policy. And so I think she could outsmart him in that sense. However, I don't think we can declare that she's going to be completely immune from that type of an attack when she's up on a debate stage. And that's why these next debates are going to be so interesting to see how, you know, she handles it now that she's coming up, and she's a real threat to Bernie Sanders, which opens anyone up once they start elevating to that level to then becoming the piñata.
Once you rise.
We've talked about her taking a punch. I really want to see if she can throw a punch. I mean, to me, that's the thing. We saw what Kamala Harris proved, that she could come out and is willing to punch the biggest guy in the room. I have not seen that yet from Elizabeth Warren. Her handling of Trump on the stump is to dismiss him, to unman him, to sort of joke about him and write him off. But, you know, can she throw a punch that could translate to what Democrats want to see on it?
You'll be watching that for us. We are going to take a break. We'll be right back.